Hi family, welcome back to ladensercrochets. If you're new to the channel, my name is Liz. You're welcome. Kindly subscribe and join the family. In this tutorial, we're making this corset gown. This is part 3 of the corset gown tutorial, and I started out by making the skirt, then I made the top, and now we're going to be learning how to join the top and the skirt to get the gown. Let's get into the tutorial. Now that you already made the top and the skirt, it's time to connect the two in order to form the gown. If you haven't watched the tutorials to the skirt and the top, click on the links in the description box and watch the two tutorials before you can get to connecting them into a gown. We are going to start out by marking these 3 points on the skirt. So I've marked the middle part of the front part of the skirt. Then I've also marked the edges on the side where we increased in order to get the hip measurements. And then we're going to get the top. And you're going to get the middle part of the front part of the top. Remember, we had done an extension, so it should be slanting on both sides of the top, and therefore we're going to get a stitch marker, mark the middle part of the top, and then count 10 stitches, 10 rows from the top of the skirt, and then use that stitch marker on the top to mark the 10th row, just like I'm doing, because we want the top to extend down 10 rows on that slanting part. I hope that makes sense. Next, we're going to hold our top like this. Then the edge, at that point, you can see the edge. Just watch what I'm doing. The edge at the end of the front part of the top, we're going to get a stitch marker, align the work together with the skirt, and mark a stitch on the skirt and the edge of the top. The edge of that is like the end of the top or the end of the front part of the top. So you're going to mark that side and then mark on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'll count stitches from the middle part up to the point that I've marked. Then I'm going to count the same number of stitches on the other side. Right here, I'm just removing the stitch marker so that I can mark from the wrong side of the top and the skirt, so that because when you are working the joining, we are working from the wrong side. So I've just marked that stitch, and then I'd counted 22 stitches, so I'll just count the 22 stitches. I'll then place the stitch marker back to that 22nd stitch. Then I'll go to the other side of the top and the skirt and count 22 stitches from the middle part, or from the stitch marker that I marked in the middle part of the skirt. So now I'm marking that other edge after counting the 22 stitches, and then after I've marked, I'll start joining. Before I start joining, I'll just go onto the ends of the top and align them with the skirt and then mark. So I'll move the stitch marker at the edge of the skirt where we were increasing on the hip part, and then I'll move it to the end of the top while aligning this with the skirt. So you want to align them and ensure that the rows and the stitches are aligning correctly. Then I'm going to count the stitches on this side so that I'll mark on the same number of stitches on the other side. I'll mark right there, and then I'll move to the other side and then count the same number of stitches as I've counted on this side, and then I'll also make the mark. From this stitch marker right here, I'm going to get my hook and I'm going to reconnect the yarn there. Then I'll connect the rows and the stitches using single crochets. We're going to get the yarn and reconnect it at that point where the hook is. So just reconnect the yarn with a slip stitch and then chain 1. And then we're going to go back into that stitch and place a single crochet. Then we're going to go on and work stitches all the way to the next stitch marker, 1 single crochet. So in this point, you can work with the hook or you can use the darning needle. It doesn't matter what you use. So just go on, align your work the right way, then work single crochets all the way to the next stitch marker. Once you get to the stitch marker, take it out and place your last stitch at that point. Then we're going to chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. We are done attaching on this side. So pull the yarn through and fasten. Make sure that you've joined this part on the wrong side, and this is what we have on the right side. I'll move on to the other side, and then I'll count the same number of stitches, and then I'm going to attach, and once I do, I'll get back. So just like I've attached on this side, I'll just count those number of stitches, go to the other side, mark the same number of stitches, connect with single crochets, and then get back to you. After working the last stitch on that end, I'll not cut off the yarn because I'm going to use it to connect the middle part that we've not connected yet. I'm going to get that loop that I have on the wrong side of the skirt, then I'll bring it up. So I'll just come up and do a slip stitch and bring the loop up. And then I'm going to use that yarn to connect this landing part, the open landing part, all the way to the next, to the point where I attached on the other side, that is. I was thinking of doing this with a hook, but I think it will be better if I do it with a darning needle. So now I'll just cut off the yarn. I'll chain 1, cut off the yarn, and leave a long tail that I'm going to use in order to connect that point with. I'll just sew. Once I'm done attaching this part, I'll just take the yarn to the other side. I'll just insert the needle and take it to the wrong side of the skirt, the wrong side of my work, or the wrong side of the gown. So just take it to the wrong side, and then we're going to use that yarn to connect this part that is left hanging around here, because we don't want it to be like that. I'm going to use my yarn and connect it from one end to the next. After that, I'll just weave in the end that remains and then cut it off. I'm done with the gown, and this is the back side of the gown. As you can see, this is the open part where we're going to place the straps, and then I feel like my gown is perfect, and I'll turn it to the right side, and right there you can see it's a perfect gown, don't you think? So thank you so much if you stuck around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed it, kindly leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and see you in the next one.